What is up, my little pretties? It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions, and welcome back to another episode of Shadows and Pretties. Today, this is episode 87, and today we are doing a Studio Ghibli movie. Now, today we are going to take a look at My Neighbor Totoro, which is a Studio Ghibli movie I have not talked about yet. I did one episode on Spirited Away, Kiki's Delivery Service, Castle in the Sky, Ponyo, and I think I did Princess Mononoke as well. I could be wrong, however, but yeah, it's been quite a little while since I last did My Neighbor Totoro. Well, not My Neighbor Totoro, but me talking about a Studio Ghibli movie. So today I am going to be talking about this animated fantasy film directed by Hayao Miyazaki, the same people who did, Kiki's Delivery Service and etc. So, today we are going to talk about this movie, My Neighbor Totoro. Now, this movie came out in 1998, and you could definitely say, this dub was released the English dub was released to the United States sometime in 1993 on VHS by Fox Video in 1994, and then it was on DVD in 2002. However, the rights of the dub expired in 2004, so the VHS was... So basically, this was re-released by Walt Disney in 2006 with a new dub cast, which, yeah. So today, this is a really good movie I am going to basically talk about is My Neighbor Totoro. Now, the movie itself is a pretty good movie. It's a really well-made concept. I really do like this movie. So, a lot of people really have to say that this is actually one of the popular Studio Ghibli movies of all time. It's one of the most popular ones that I've seen in this, to this day. I rewatched it, I kind of watched it as a kid, I believe, but I probably just wasn't, crazy on it or something. But, it's a pretty good Studio Ghibli movie, and if you're a Studio Ghibli fan, I highly recommend you check out this movie. You will not be disappointed. It's a really amazing movie. So I could definitely say that this one was actually pretty good for what it is. So I'm going to definitely sit there and say that if you have not seen this movie, you need to go see this movie. This movie is amazing. Oh, excuse me. So, anyways, with that being said, this movie takes place around the 1950s Japan, which a university professor Tatsuko Kusagabi and his two daughters Satsuki and Mei, who move into an old house to be closer to the hospital where their mother, Yatsuko, is recovering from a long-term illness. So the house is inhabited by creatures, and there are small, dark, dust-like houses. Spirits have been moving from light to dark places. When the girls become more comfortable at their new house, the spirits leave to find another empty house. When May discovers two spirits the next day, who lead her to a hollow with a large capcore tree, which, of course, she befriends a larger spirit, which identifies herself as a spirit that roars as she interrupts as Totoro. When she falls asleep on top of Totoro and Satsuki finds her, she is on the ground. Despite many attempts, May is unable to show her family Totoro's tree. Tatsuko then comforts her by telling her that Totoro will reveal himself when he wants to. So, however, on one rainy night, the girls are waiting for the Tatsudo bus, which is late, and May falls asleep on Satsuki's back, and Totoro appears beside them, allowing Satsuki to see him for the first time, as Totoro has only a leaf on his head for protection against the rain. So Satsuki offers him an umbrella that she had taken for her father, and Totoro is delighted and gives her a bundle of nuts and seeds in return. The giant bus, shaped like a cat, or aka Cat's Bus, if they call that, in Studio Ghibli world, halts at the stop, and Totoro boards and leaves. But shortly after, Tatsuro's bus arrives. So when the girls plant the seeds a few days later, they are awoken at midnight to find Totoro and his colleagues engage into a ceremonial dance around the planted seeds. So the girls join in and the seeds grow into an enormous tree. Then Totoro takes the girls for a ride on a magic flying top, which, of course, in the morning, the tree is gone, but the seeds have indeed sprouted. it is left unclear whether the girls were dreaming or not. It is hard to say. It's possible that they could be dreaming, or they could be, well, not really sure, to be honest, if they were hallucinating or they're dreaming. But you guys can come up with, your own ideas, because there's just so many, theories as to it, so you guys can sit there and say. So, anyways, the girls then find out that they have a planned visit by Yatsuko to be postponed because of a setback of her treatment, so Mei does not take this well and argues with Satsuki. And after leaving for the hospital to bring her fresh corn to Yatsuko, her disappearance prompted Satsuki and the neighbors to search for her. In desperation, Satsuki returns to the Kampcore tree and pleads for Totoro's help. Delighted to help, he summons the cat bus, which carries her to where the lost Mei sits with her sisters in emotional reunion. So the bus then whisks them over to the countryside to see Yatsuko carries her to be the lost Mei and sits with her sisters in emotional reunion is what happens. So over in the countryside, Yatsuko is in the hospital. The girls overhear the conversation between their parents, and they discover that she's been kept in the hospital by a minor cold that is otherwise doing well. So they secretly leave their ear of corn by the windowsill or something, where they've been discovered by their parents, and they eventually return home. So Mei and Satsuki's mother returns home in the end of the film, and the sisters play with the other children while Totoro and his friends were watching them from afar. It's actually a pretty good story. I really do find the story to be a really amazing story. Like, Mei and Satsuki's house has been showed at the Expo 2005, site, which has been inspired by that, as well as the close-up view of the house. So they did take some inspiration from certain places, and they kind of wanted to sit there and kind of take some inspiration to make this movie so they can make the house of the design. So Enicism, which is a large theme according to the people who worked on My Neighbor Totoro, the animalistic traits have kami status according to his surroundings and etc. Which of course is how the themes are, and they took some certain things when it came to in the development of the movie. Of course, the movie was originally hand-drawn, just like, Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, which I do plan to do that episode someday in the near future. But, of course, with that being the case, they have, a Satsunoma, which is a Japanese term for applied to the border zone or between the mountain and foothills, which, of course, there was, an original image of Totoro doing that. However, there are, certain productions when it came to that, like, My Neighbor Totoro was a big success after receiving, some critics and reviews and all that. It's still pretty well made in detail. So, after Nausicaa the Valley of the Wind had been made in 1994 and Castle in the Sky was shortly released in 1986, Hayao Miyazaki began directing My Neighbor Totoro for Studio Ghibli. However, Miyazaki's production parallel to be the Asukazu Takehata's production for Grave of the Fireflies, which came out in the same year My Neighbor Totoro was, which is financed by executive producer Yamoshi Tominka. Now, I do apologize that I'm, not saying, certain of these movies correctly, or there's not saying, certain names that I have to say, because, one of them being that, it's kind of very hard to sit there and, say that because it's in Japanese, so it's obvious. But I definitely have to say that this was actually a pretty good movie, and My Neighbor Totoro sold, a lot of tickets when the movie was being released to the public. And, of course, My Neighbor Totoro was a very popular, movie at the time. Now, of course, they had some different, English dubs when it came to wanting to do English dubs. Now, I do like that Dakota Fanning did a great job in there, as well as Ellie Fanning, which is, Suzuki and Mei, and they got some, some pretty good, other characters to, be in the My Neighbor Totoro, movie, in the Disney version. Now, I haven't seen the Disney version in, years, So it's been quite a while since I last sat there and saw the movie, but I recently just watched it, maybe a week or so ago. Now, sometime it was on VHS in the 90s, which most of you guys probably have seen in the movies, but movies in the early 1980s. And for those who have seen it on VHS, who grew up watching it in 1990s, and etc., the movie itself was a pretty good concept for what this movie really was. Now, of course, there are a 4-volume series of the anti-manga books based on, well, I guess, Tonkomeka or something, which, of course, there was some of that, which I don't really know if there's like a anti-manga based on this movie, but there are anime shorts such as a 13-minute sequel to My Neighbor Totoro, which was called May and the Kitten Bus, which is like a little mini, miniature movie. It's not like a whole movie, but it's just a miniature movie. So, with that being said, a lot of people really would have to say, because every time they see My Neighbor Totoro, they think of, well, Hayao Miyazaki, because this is actually one of the most popular movies, of the Studio Ghibli, no company, because, Studio Ghibli had, other movies like Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, Kiki's Delivery Service, and etc. My Neighbor Totoro is actually one of those movies that actually had a pretty good concept for what it was worth. The storyline behind, the whole plot itself was actually really sweet. It's interesting, very nice, and it's actually a pretty good concept for the whole movie. When I first saw this movie as a kid, I actually really fell in love with how good this movie is. This movie is just a really well-made movie. I really do like how everything went out. It's a great movie. So, if you're a fan of My Neighbor Totoro, I highly recommend you check out this movie. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but I just can't get over of how good this movie is, which, if you guys have not seen it, I really recommend you sit there and go take a look at this movie, as you will not be disappointed. There are so many merchandise when it comes to Studio Ghibli. My Neighbor Totoro was actually a pretty good merchandise, mascot, who is really popular for merchandise. Like, there's like t-shirts, sweaters, toys, plushies, mugs. There's like basically everything with Studio Ghibli that will involve Totoro. Like, if you want to get like something Studio Ghibli related, like if it's a stuffed animal or something, you have to get Totoro. Now, I don't own a Totoro plush myself, but I do plan to get one, hopefully maybe someday if I ever had the time. I might consider it, but who really knows? Maybe I might be able to get it in the sometime in the future, which it is quite possible I might get it, which I'm not really sure if I will get it, but I could definitely say that My Neighbor Totoro is a pretty good, merchandise, thing. So, there is a novel based on My Neighbor Totoro that was based on it. So, there's like a picture book, and there's even a novel. Now, the novel is pretty similar to the movie, so I'm not going to go into detail because it's basically the same thing. There's even coloring books and etc. So, there's a lot of merchandise and that with My Neighbor Totoro. I can go on, and it's just really good. And for those who have not seen, My Neighbor Totoro, I highly recommend you check this movie out. And even get a plush toy if you can. If you can get a plush toy, that would be fantastic, because you will really like My Neighbor Totoro when you do see it, as it's a pretty good movie. You'll really would like it a lot. I really do recommend you guys get, My Neighbor Totoro if you haven't. And I definitely have to say, it's a pretty good movie for what it is. It's really amazing. I really recommend you do get it, which is pretty interesting, and you should really, see this movie if you haven't. I guess that's kind of all I have to say. I don't really have much to say about this because I kind of already covered it, but if I'm missing something, please guys let me know in the comments below, because I'll be able to point it out. So, anyways, that being the case, that being said, what did you guys think about this, what did you guys think about this, movie? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this movie a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, and if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, and you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.